Hey, it's the girl Netta Brielle, and you are listening to You Know I Got Soul.
You've been signed to Atlantic Records, since early last year. What's the journey been like of developing on the label and coming together as an artist?
It's actually been coming along amazing. Like, it still doesn't seem real. And I say this all the time because the area that I come from, the things that I've been through, like, I always wanted to be signed to a label, like being younger. I want a record deal. I never really knew that it could truly happen. Now it's happening, like,
right.
It's amazing. We're creating some great music, projects, and things of that sort, so.
Right.
Real, yeah.
So, you're getting ready to release this mixtape, Will You Go With Me, next month. How'd you know it was the right time for this, the project to come out and kind of put yourself out there and introduce yourself, since you've kind of been on the label for a little over a year now?
Well, I think we wanted to take some time to kind of, like, figure out the direction that I wanted to take my music, if we were going to go strong R&B or if we were going to mix it with a little pop.
Right.
And we took time to really build records and really refine my sound. So we decided to go with creating songs from a time period that, influenced me, inspired me to sing, and my style of singing or whatever. So we decided to make some music from the 90s and create a mixtape around that, and that's kind of like my introduction to the world. This is my music. Here's 5 songs. You kind of see the direction I'm going, and when my album comes, then that's the big thing. That's the big deal. So.
Of course. Okay. And I know on this mixtape project, like you mentioned, you covered some 90s classics. Can you touch on a few of those and kind of what it was like covering them and how you feel you stacked up?
Well, we decided to go 90s for the mixtape, which is my favorite era of music. I mean, obviously I have other songs and genres of music I like, but ultimately this is my favorite era of music. So we created Rain. That's the one we actually just released last week, and I had the pleasure of having Coco from SWV join me on the record, which was just huge, and I'm still not believing it's true, but we recreated that, and we also did Pretty Brown Eyes, and it was just kind of like we wanted to take some old songs and kind of like make them current, make them 2013, and I think that's what inspired the title too, because it's like, Will You Go With Me, and that kind of just makes you think about when you were young and listening to that feel-good music and, just being in love, and so I, thought it'd be best to recreate some classics and put them out.
Right. Even in your original material, that 90s influence is definitely something that's noticeable. So what did that era of music mean to you, and how did it influence you?
Well, just being young and watching these amazing singers with these raspy tones and doing all these special things with their voice, in particular, like Mary J. Blige, I used to be kind of afraid of my tone because it's kind of low, and I kind of felt like I sound like a guy sometimes, and blah, 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 but when I would hear artists like Brandy or Mary J. Blige, it made me feel comfortable with using, the voice that I had been given, and just, not really focusing on, overselling sex and, looking a certain way, but just baggy jeans, Timberland boots, jerseys, just young girls singing, love songs and breakup songs, just feel good music, but it wasn't so much focused on selling the sex of it, but actually selling like amazing records. So that's kind of what I want to recreate right now.
Yeah, cool. So, I just want to go back in your history a little bit. I know before you signed with Atlantic, you had a situation with Def Jam. I believe you had won a talent contest. Talk about that situation and kind of why it didn't work out.
Well, I believe back in 2008, I had the opportunity to go and be a part of it was called a Def Jam Mega Search. And it was Shakir Stewart, who is actually from Oakland, from the Bay Area. He really wanted to come back and get an artist from there that he can, create something big with. So I went and did the talent contest and actually won. And it was just a moment that I'll never forget. And it was like, I finally got my record deal, and I bought my mama a house, and just all things like, oh, my dream is finally coming true. So I went to LA, so I could do some work with him. And, he was just helping me decide what lane I wanted to take my music. So it was good at the beginning stages of everything. And then, unfortunately, his untimely death, that happened. And it kind of put me back, at square one. A really, really trying time in my life because it was just like, okay, now what do I do? Where do I start? And, he was also such an amazing person that, people from the Bay Area look up to. Because if you know anything about the Bay Area, like, it's really hard to get out of there and actually make it in the industry, the music industry, to be specific. But we have so much talent there. there. So for him to actually overcome the obstacles of getting out of the Bay Area and just watching him grow from an A&R to like the president of a company was really, really inspiring.
Yeah.
So, it was really hard when that happened. It was a really tough time.
Well, how did you, kind of take it from that tough time, and what was your journey like of going from there to Atlantic? How did you make that happen?
Well, I kind of just continue to push. Like, there have been so many things in my life that, my sister was murdered in 2007, and then the Shakira thing happened, and then it just seemed like things kept happening. And although they were trying times for me, for some reason it just pushed me more to make it happen.
Right.
So after that happened, I just really started performing at different venues in local areas, putting out my own projects, using my college financial aid money to create my project, going to high school, performing at high school. I really just hit the ground running on a local level.
Right.
So at home, people knew me as just building my own brand. And then Twitter came about, and all these things came about, and actually Yancey Richardson, who's from Oakland, he had a company called L7, and he seen me on Twitter just on my grind and trying to make stuff happen for me. And he actually called me out to Atlanta and was like, I want to record some records with you. I think we can really get a deal. And I'm just like, whatever, we'll see. Because I had been so broken from the Shakira thing and just all the things that people had promised me that never really happened. So, we got the music done, and I went to Atlantic. They loved what they heard, and it's all the rest is history. So.
Nice. Very cool.
Yeah.
So, you touched on some of the tragedies you've been through. I was reading about some of the tough times you've had in life, in your bio. How has music helped you overcome those things? How have you used music as an outlet to get past that?
Well, I definitely feel like music was my outlet. And obviously my mother, she was, a single mother. My father had passed when I was 11. And he was an alcoholic, and he was suffering postpartum depression from being in the Vietnam War. And, so my mom, she raised 3 girls on her own, and she always taught us to be strong, and no matter what, you just got to continue on. So I obviously had her. But I felt like music was my outlet. It stopped me from, teenage pregnancies or, being with the wrong crowd or, that was what I had that always kind of kept me out of trouble because all my friends really, some of them are not living anymore. Some of them did suffer, had teenage pregnancies and suffered different tragedies. And, I think me just having that drive and that passion to do music and to do plays and, and then having my mom actually there making sure I didn't slip through the cracks. I think, just having that family support and, knowing what I wanted to do at a young age. I knew at 5 years old, I knew I wanted to be an entertainer, and it's never changed.
Right.
So I think just being dedicated, sticking to it is kind of what helped me keep going.
Okay, cool. Now, like we've talked about, your style is very 90s influenced, and, even some of the artists who have influenced you, they're still making music, but they've kind of been pushed from the mainstream, in favor of a new R&B sound. It's a little different. So, do you feel like that 90s sound and those 90s artists still have a place in the mainstream and kind of like the sound you're developing?
Yeah, I think, to make sure you were kind of going in and out and make sure I heard you right. I was trying to answer it. I really think that we're missing those R&B records and, those R&B albums. They kind of just slip through the cracks, and now everything is just kind of like pop music. And I love pop music. There's nothing wrong with it, but I feel like we're missing those songs with bridges and telling stories and, I don't know what happened and where it shifted, but I feel like we're getting back to it. When I listen to Justin Timberlake or, even listening to, Beyonce's last album, it seems like R&B is starting to make its way back, but for some reason we kind of got off track. So I really, really want to be a part of bringing what our old R&B, like what it felt like. I really want to be a part of bringing that back.
That's a beautiful thing.
And I think that is what inspired me to do this Will You Go Me project, because I was like, I think we're missing something. I think we're missing, those feel good R&B tracks, and that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
And so I presented it to my A&R, and he was with it. He sat down with me, and we, created this.
Cool. I'm actually glad to hear that because I'd love to hear that sound come back as well.
See, exactly. And I always hear that from people. They're like, I'm so excited. Like, I really miss the Drew Hills and the Jodeci's
Yep.
and the Leah's. Like, everybody really misses it. So I really feel like it's the perfect time. I want to hurry up and do it before somebody else.
Cool. So, kind of just looking a little bit ahead, past the mixtape to your debut project. Have you begun working on that already, or is that still, something you're going to work on in the future?
I have actually.
Okay.
I actually have. We're almost done, honestly. And my A&R like I said, he sat me down and just, kind of picked my brain, wanted to know where I really wanted to go with the album, and we just got out there and got the right record. And it's really dope because it's like, okay, what do you want to do now? It's not really like, oh, you're getting ready to do this, this, and this. It's like they really sat me down and, kind of like came together with the ideas that I had, which is such a blessing. So I'm pretty much doing everything that I wanted to do. And on this album, I got to work with Pharrell, who is also one of my biggest inspirations. Mm-hmm. So to be able to do records with him that's going to be on my album is just amazing.
Wow.
So again, we're done with, I really took this whole year I've been working on the album this whole year, and it's almost done. So the mixtape is, I kind of like to look at it as like an album sampler.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to give you 6 songs, short and sweet, to the point where you want to know more, and when the album comes, you just, let's hit the ground running.
Can you touch on some of the other producers you're working with? Because I'm curious to hear who's kind of been helping you craft, the sound you're going to come with.
Well, again, for the album, I worked with Pharrell and another great writer, actually, Eric Dawkins, mm-hmm. Eric Hudson, Little Ron, like just a lot of producers who have done great R&B records.
Right.
And that was what it was for me. Like, I was like, I want to go all the way on R&B. I don't want to be watered down with any. I want this album to be. I want people to feel what I felt when I heard My Life for the first time, when I heard, actually when I heard What's the 401 for the first time, when I heard SWV's debut album, like, that's what I wanted to feel like. So he really went out and got all those producers who created, like, those R&B sounds. And, producers who were part of the Confessions album, which is one of my favorite albums, and, Brandy's album. So it is really, it's that R&B. Is that R&B, people who were a part of that R&B sound back then. Yeah. It was a blessing.
Cool. Definitely looking forward to hearing some of that stuff in the future.
Yeah.
So.
I think you like it.
What's that?
I think you'll really like it.
Yeah, definitely. So that's all the questions we have for you. Anything you want to add?
No, thank you for the opportunity. I really just want people to understand the kind of music that I'm doing and what I'm trying to recreate, and how I'm all about this R&B sound, and I also want people to know my story, because I've been through so many things, and somehow I was still able to sign to a major label, mm-hmm. With all the odds against me. And so I really always say that I want to touch people through my music, but I also want to touch people through my story, because I want that young girl out there to know that I am just like her, or was her, and, with a few things that I, staying dedicated and having a own family, I stuck with it.
Yeah.
I just want people to know my story and know that you really can do whatever you want to do, as cliche as it sounds, you know what I mean?